Hey guys, welcome to Taste of Recovery, the podcast.
Where we explore one's honest journey of surrender, willingness, acceptance, and courage.
I'm Alecia Spendlove.
And I'm Sassoon.
Please join us every week for authentic and raw conversations with inspiring people in recovery.
We invite you and our guests to get real because the disease of addiction does not discriminate.
Oh, no, it doesn't. And we go through so many emotions. We laugh, we cry, we pray.
So get ready for a taste of recovery.
Every phase of your life is going to require a new version of you.
We want to welcome our friend Jarrod.
Enjoy his taste of recovery.
Where are we at in our sobriety now, buddy? I think 11 years?
Approaching 11. God willing, I have 11, August 16th of this year. You know?
It's incredible.
So as long as I do what I'm doing and I got breath in my lungs, then I'll reach 11 years in August. Come on, talk to me. What's up?
That's my boy. How would you say you got there?
Besides the basic one day at a time answer, I think it's dealing with a lot of hard stuff, life continues to life. You know what I mean? I think internally I embrace the struggle and the challenge. I got one tattoo. It's literally a semicolon with my recovery date. And when life gets like really, really hard, like last year was like extremely hard for me. I looked at that tattoo and like a nervous kind of twitch, I rub it. And I'm like, all right, no matter what I'm going through right now, like life will not be as bad as it was then because it was rough. I did a lot of things I'm still not proud of. I had to dig myself out of a very big hole. And I never want to get a glimpse of that person again, And
what did that person look like really quickly? I want people to be able to identify with that before we get to this beautiful man sitting in front of us.
That guy was a selfish jerk. Didn't care about anybody. Had no ounce of love, compassion, empathy, none of that. I was out for myself and myself only. Ruined a lot of relationships. Was a horrible father, horrible son, horrible friend, horrible lover. I wasn't a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like the rap sheet that came with that, the jail sentences, the, screwing countless people over. It's hard. It was hard to like sleep at night, And I don't ever want to worry about where I put my feet when I move forward. And I think that's why today I just try to shed so much love to get further and further away from that past,
That's his thing. Lead with love.
I love that.
Right?
You got
Yeah.
What's on your mind, Alecia? You keep smiling.
You know what? I was thinking it's so funny when she said keyword love. I was thinking keyword past. When
that too.
Yeah, when you said I keep doing, more honest things so I can walk further and further away from my past.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So when I talk to like the youth today, because it's so hard to see past it, see past the moments when you're in the thick of it. Like it's so incredibly hard to like see that there's a different way, So the message that I try to get to the youth when I work with my clients day in and day out is like, you're not going to be here forever, and the further and further you take steps forward from where you're at currently, they won't be able to say these things about you, and I think that's like the hardest part because at one point you could say, yo, Jarrod is an awful person. And back then I'd have to be like, yeah, you're right, and nowadays I could still say, yeah, you're right, but I've changed a heck of a lot. And that's where I find like power and you know what I'm saying? Like the ability to keep going.
And where do you find the strength to one day at a time not ever go back? Because you're that close to it.
See, I preface everything. Like I don't know if I'll ever go back, Like I'm still very self-aware that dragon, that demon is waiting for me to slip. And last year was tough. He was on me. It was on me. But I find that power through my higher power, and remembering everything that I was brought through and to avoid trying to step foot in that path ever again. And that so far for the last almost 11 years, that has been enough to keep me going one day at a time, you know.
What did last year look like?
Last year was a difficult one, you know, and I know you've had your share of losses, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think I was emotionally ready, but I always, like, even in Clubhouse, I would say, man, I love sobriety because I'm built to handle anything, you know. I was so like powerful in those moments, right? And so my grandmother would have been like really sick, which was understandable. She was in her late 80s, lived a long life, you know. I get it. You know, it's time. All of us got to check out at some point. So she ended up passing March 15th of last year. And when I got back home to Virginia, I sat with my dad and my mom. I was stopped by the house to check on him. And I had just seen him at my grandma's funeral because he did the eulogy and everything. So he's a pastor. And I went over to talk to him, and my mom was like, hey, your dad's not feeling well. Go check on him. He's sick. I'm like, oh, sick. You know, is he coughing? You know, is he sneezing? Like what?
Right.
I go upstairs and he starts to kind of tell me, you know, my energy's been low. I can't really move without getting exhausted. So I'm like, all right, Pop, well, you know, if I got to take you to the hospital, let me know. I'll drive you in the morning. You know, we're men, you know. It's like, nah, I'm not going to no doctor. I'm fine. And long story short, when he finally went, we found out he had pancreatic cancer. And originally they told us that he had like 6 months to a year. And he ended up passing like May 16th of last year. And so sorry if I cry because it's still there, you know?
Please cry.
Yeah, we're sorry as well.
So sorry.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's part of the healing process, you know?
Yeah.
So that when that happened, I was still kind of naive. You know, as I heard the word cancer and I was like, man, we got a fighting chance. This is my dad, you know, like we gonna go at this thing like war. And he was just setting me up to become like the man, you know, like, you know, it's your turn, dude. So all of his conversations with me are about what to take care of, you know, what to move where. And I'm like, yo, bro, you're not going nowhere. Like, why are you talking to me like this? And so he passed May 16th. And to prevent myself from, you know, drinking or using, I just started working like crazy, like a madman. I was recording like 3-4 podcasts a week. I was doing speaking engagements, you know, like anything I could do to prevent myself from actually having to feel it. So when we had his funeral in June and my brother and I closed the door on that hearse, it was like everything just like came crashing down at once, you know? And I sat still probably for the rest of that year, last year, and didn't do much, like the bare minimum of anything. And then my grandfather passed in September. So it was like the punches just kept going. And you know, I think what I found in my strength during that time was like I leaned more into my higher power versus like questioning like why. You know what I'm saying? Like I meditated a lot, I prayed a lot. And some days, hell, I laid in bed and cried a lot. You know, I would get up, see a client virtually, go right back in the bed and cry. And you know, it's life, you know, and I could say that it's a beautiful life, even in the struggle. And I'm grateful to be sober, grateful to be here, you know. So this year, you could tell, like I've been trying to get back. All right, yo, Jarrod, you cannot sit still again. Like being stagnant isn't good for you. Like, let's get back to your goals. Let's get back to outreach. Let's get back to, you know, just moving and making change. So,
I resonate with that because those feelings that you're having that are clear will still be present while you're moving.
Most certainly. Most certainly.
So how do we do that? It's interesting, right? We want to isolate, we want to hide, we want to sit still, we want to do nothing, thinking we won't feel our feelings when in actuality they're just there, and it's so painful. And yet, like it doesn't. It's like, how does that make sense?
It doesn't, you know. And I'm still learning how to cope. And I've been losing friends since I was 15. You know, to addiction, to alcohol. You know. And I don't think I've ever properly coped, because I just always just kind of kept going. And even at some of their funerals, it was like it's a party. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we would all go drink together and the memory of them, like, oh, this is what they would do. So let's just go. So when you lose someone you love and you care about, that like expected to be on this road with me almost forever, it seems like, it was different. You know what I'm saying? And well, I know um, so I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to cope and get through this new world that I found myself in.
I have a question because yesterday I was crying over my brother grief, but I was crying. So I was with my sponsor and we were listening to a song, and I looked over and I saw the picture of my brother, right? And he's like, well, after the song, he said, what? I said, I'm sad for him, as if I had no emotion or no feeling. It was for him. That's not possible. Those have to come, right? Those have to come somewhere from empathy within me for me to be able to connect to his pain or what my idea of his pain is, right?
Right.
So it's almost like I disassociate or disattach from my true self to put it on the person, and I'm sad for them. So when you were just crying as you were speaking of your father, what was that? What's inside of you ticking? It's
a lot of emotions. Like when I cry, thinking about what he went through that last 30 days, I think hits my mind first. Because, my story of, addiction was I tried to take my own life. Like that was my U-turn moment. Like I wanted to die, and what I found in that, it was like, man, had I gotten some type of diagnosis, I probably would have been begging to live, So that's like the first reason I cried, because I'm a firm believer. Like I know my dad, like if he would have known what was happening internally, he would have started a lot earlier making changes. So that hurts. That's why I cry. I also cry because we didn't have the best past. And we had just started like hanging out again, He would come by often. He was always at the kids' sporting events. Damn. It's okay. And I should have known then, Like, man, why are you always over here? You're over at my house like twice a week, man. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? And like I miss that, like sitting at my son's basketball game and listening to him yell, crossover. It's like them little things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Jarrod.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
It's all good. Like this was needed,
So
it's all good.
When those last 30 days, were you sitting with him a lot?
Yeah, every day.
And what were those conversations like?
Yo, it was a lot of laugh, a lot of love. We would, most of the time it was during the NBA playoffs, so we would be watching basketball and he would break down plays to me. We'd talk about, his era, the Magic Johnsons, the Jerry West. He was a big Lakers fan, you know what I'm saying? So he would talk about that because, of course, we were watching LeBron and AD playing the Warriors, so we would talk about that a lot. He got really open with me about his struggles with addiction growing up, and honestly, I recorded one of our last conversations, and I've been thinking about releasing it on the podcast at some point whenever I could listen to it without crying.
Or you cry the whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just little things that he would share about his past growing up. I made sure I asked a lot of questions. I didn't want to like leave any stone unturned. Like, man, I should ask my dad this, should ask him that.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of joy. If I broke it down to one word, just pure joy.
See, that to me is so magical, right? We and I'm not going to speak for Alecia just yet, but we come up against, like, your dad knew, right? He knew he was dying. Like my dad, I lost my dad. He knew he was dying. And there's so much that like you kind of succumb to or you give into and you want the joy. And yet we all know we're dying.
Right.
And yet we don't know when and we don't know how and we don't know if and we don't know why and we don't know blah, 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 blah. And you're going to speak to this, I hope. And yet it takes us to get to that moment of like, oh shit, I'm dying, to realize what really matters.
Right.
Like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But how amazing in recovery. I feel like we three, are really focusing on what matters.
Definitely.
And I think obviously we couldn't do that if we weren't sober, right?
Nah, not at all. And I think, again, that's the beauty. That's the gift of recovery. That I'm able to be present. I'm able to be in this moment, like right now with you all. When I exit this, I'll go chill with the kids and I'm just there because I'm so full of gratitude that I am here, that I am sober, and I could give, you all my best, your listeners my best, and my family my best. Like everybody gets the best version of me and not, the person in my past where nobody got the real version of me, right? They just got this horrible human being, you know what I'm saying? And that part of it, like I could never see myself, diving back into because I don't ever want to live that way again.
Question.
What's up?
They got this horrible human being. Now you take away the drugs and the alcohol, you're still that, you're still Jarrod. You take that away, then what's that recovery? What does recovery mean? What is the next version of yourself? How did you get there? Because you couldn't, I don't think you just take away the drugs and the alcohol and woo, Jarrod's the new version, 2.0. What does that mean? What does recovery mean?
To me, it's simply growth. I was explaining to my son the other day, like, and this is how I try to break it down to clients. They say you truly don't understand something until you can explain it to a 5-year-old, right? So he's 10. His language is sports, and that's how I break things down to him. So he's about to hit middle school, and he wants to try out, of course, for the football team, basketball team, and this is relatable to recovery. So just follow.
Yes.
So we're talking about it, and he's like, "Well, how do I know if I can make the team?" And I'm like, "Well, bro, like." Every phase of your life is going to require a new version of you, and he's like, what? I'm like, nah, bro, hear me out. Like what got you on the team as a 8-9-year-old won't cut it in middle school where you got to go up against 7th graders, 8th graders, your 6th grade class. And there's only 15 spots on this team. So what do you do to carve out one spot? Is that you do the math, reverse engineer it. 10 of those spots are already taken. Maybe 13. That means they might have 2 spots for like 30 kids competing. So how do you elevate into this new self in order to carve out one of those spots? Since that conversation, every day he come home, putting up 50 shots on the hoop, doing layups, doing dribbling exercises. So that's the same thing with recovery, right? Like each phase of my life required a new phase of Jarrod. And to even move forward, I had to understand who I was, right? Which was a process in itself because I didn't know who I was. I was 28 years old, grown with 2 kids and had no clue who I was as a human being. So I had to learn. I think the first thing I did was read a lot of books. The first book I picked up was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And then I read the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And then As a Man Thinketh, and just kept reading, you know what I mean? Just to kind of change my mindset from what I thought I knew about myself into who I wanted to become. And then through that process, I learned that all the morals and values that I learned as a kid growing up still existed within me. I had just strayed away from them so far that they were buried. So I had to start learning to love. I had to start learning to forgive. I had to start learning to be responsible. All those things that you're just supposed to know, I had to learn them as a grown-up.
It's like rediscovering them again, right? From when you were a kid. Yeah. It's always been there. And
exactly.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of work. You were saying with your son coming and doing the basketball and the repetition and with you reading books, and we have to do the work. We have to do the work in recovery to make it further along and be happier.
You got to, because all of those moments that if it weren't for me going through everything I went through, like we wouldn't even be able to have this conversation. You know, I wouldn't have met Eden. I wouldn't have got introduced to Alecia. You know what I'm saying? Like every moment in my life, I could pinpoint different times. Like, oh my God, like it had to happen that way in order for me to be here. You know, at any other moment, it happened a different way, then I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do now, be able to be on the path of hopefully changing the lives of the young men and young women who are now in that struggle, trying to look for a beacon of hope to find their way out. Amen. So it's just finding beauty when I look back at the past, like, all right, God, I see you. You know, I see what you were doing here. It's like a bad joke almost. Like, it goes that way for me to get here.
Yep, I sure did.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about the work you're doing with kids.
So I work virtually and in the community at times. And it's just simple, like peer recovery. So I meet with their parents first if they're underage. So my adolescents from like 13 to 17. And I get a backstory of, you know, what's going on. And then I try to paint my picture, like my struggles of a teenager back then. And I kind of break it down to them like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. Because what I find, especially with the youth, is they only know what they're surrounded by, you know? Like, for instance, I asked a young man the other day, and it broke my heart, you know, because his family had already told me what they thought about him, right? Which was negative. And then I asked him, like, later on when we were talking alone, and I was like, hey, bro, like, describe yourself to me. Like, who are you? You know, he was like, man, I'm a troublemaker. I'm this, you know, they call it demon time. That's what the kids call it when they being reckless. And I'm like, yo, you realize you don't have to be any of that. You know, that's just labels. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't make you cool to operate this way. And you could see his world like light up almost. And I wish, like, going through it, the struggle that early, it's like I wish I had somebody like me to come along and say, yo, let me show you something. It's a completely different way to be cool over here that doesn't involve any of this. You know what I mean? So it's just trying to get that message of hope across. The younger, the better, because this fentanyl stuff that's sweeping the nation is crazy. Like we didn't have them problems back in the day. Because I could tell you honestly, in my addiction day, I would have sniffed anything that came across me. You know? So it's like, knowing the dangers and then having kids, it's like you understand it more to get in front of it. Like, hey, bro, just let's try something else, because that's not gonna cut it. I already did that for you. I could show you where your actions will lead you.
And now you don't even have the opportunity to you don't have an opportunity, not you, them.
Yeah, exactly. You always want to give yourself a fighting chance. And if you don't give them that message of hope, the only thing they see is right in front of them. And it don't look good.
And you're right. It's so important to have an adult, someone older that you can lean on and look up to like that, because I didn't have that growing up.
Me either. You know, like, and by the time I thought I had it, I was so far gone, you couldn't have reached me. And that was one thing in the conversation with my dad that I recorded. He was like, man, I tried. I just couldn't get through to you. You know, it was too late. I was already so heavy involved in street stuff coming from this really good family. Here I am on the other side of town doing God knows what. You know what I mean? I was just too far gone to be reached at that moment. So the earlier, the better.
Wow. Well done, Jarrod.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
No.
Work in progress.
You really are. But you just opened my mind. Like I obviously understand the idea of fentanyl kills, and that's something you said, or the way I was able to connect to you and your story just now. Like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, for some reason, it really just clicked. Like, okay, this drug kills. Got it.
Yeah.
No, not only did it just kill my brother, but this is way bigger and beyond their choices.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that you can intercept a child's mind or conception of what's cool and what's not, and kind of be their, like, for lack of better, older brother, mentor, peer. I don't know why it's hitting me more so today than ever before. Like, that is so fucking powerful. And what a gift. What a gift to be able to give on a daily basis.
No doubt. I definitely try. I feel like it was a light bulb moment when I got to this field. You know what I mean? Like, because I was in a career change. Like, even when I met you,
I remember.
I was working for the federal government, and like something happened.
Something had to give.
Yeah, something had to shake up, yo. But I got into I won't call it an altercation because I didn't fight back, and they moved me like it was like a movie, right? Like when somebody does something bad at work, they like put you in the dark basement and make you do like tedious tasks. So I'm in this big hospital, and they moved me to the basement in the dark, a little dim lit room to make copies for the entire hospital. Like, yo, it's 2020. Who's making copies? Like, everything is outsourced to Kinko's. And I was sitting there, and some days I would be frustrated. Some days I'd be sad. Some days I would be, I don't know, like hopeless, because I felt so bad to be from a profound employment opportunity to now I'm in this dark basement and just sitting there. But in that moment, the beauty and the struggle piece was that when I sat down and looked, it was like, all right, now I have the time to figure something out, right? This clearly can't be forever. I don't want to be here. What am I here to do? Like, what am I to learn from this moment? And that was a message that was laid. It was like, all right, now you got time. Let's figure it out. So I had a therapist. And then talking to her, she asked me a question, and it was like, what would you do if I needed you to give me a speech right now? Like, don't go prepare, just get a mic and start talking. And I was like, well, that's easy. I've been sober like 7 years at this point. I could talk about that all day. That's probably the one thing I've done consistently. And she was like, oh, well, you should look at peer support. And it was like the light bulb went off. And I was like, holy crap, that's it. There's my lane, and I'm trying to take it and just continue to run with it and grow and help as many people as possible,
So you found a lot of strength in that time.
Strength and soundness, right? Look, I hear you.
I hear you. I see you. That's his Instagram name.
Then sound, that's right.
Yep. What do you tell these kids about fentanyl?
When we touch fentanyl, I just tell them, man, like, it's complete abstinence because you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I interviewed a young lady the other day, and she was talking about how her brother passed from fentanyl overdose, but he took it thinking it was Percocet.
Ouch.
You know what I'm saying? So the
yeah,
best way.
You know what? I was watching a very current movie last night on Netflix, and one of the scenes were these cute teenage girls, and they're partying, and they stick their tongues out, and they put the pill in their mouth, and they're like, woo! And then it goes back into like the good girl that like ends up partying with them as well. But you're right. That could be fentanyl.
Yeah, you don't have a clue. Like, I was so reckless growing up, right? So, and I think that's why when I talk to the youth, I was there. So I understand like being in those environments, and it looks so fun, and everybody's doing it, right? Like, I remember back in the day, we had a massive party at somebody's house around there, and like ecstasy was the big thing. And one of my friends had an endless supply of what it seemed like. Then at some point, they all got inebriated and was just kind of tossing them out to everybody. And it, like, in the moment, the next day, of course, when you're involved in it, you're like, oh my God, last night was crazy. Not once is it like, damn, I could have died. Like, I don't think that fear was there. Like, yeah, we knew like it kind of could happen, but the rate that it's happening now, it's like, man, don't touch none of it. Like, listen to me, bro. Like, just stay away as much as you can. It's not as cool as you think it is. Trust me, I've been there.
It seems so simple, right? But yet, like our will, and not necessarily the three of our will, but their will, human will comes into play. And like it's almost stronger than the idea of like, oh, well, this could be, right? I'm trying to get this thought out where like
I got you.
that abstinence idea, like it is, you just stay away from these drugs, period. There's no question. There's no question.
Yeah. And that brings me even to advertising, you know, with alcohol, like it's you're selling an image. Yeah. You're selling an image.
Sex
you're selling a
and
feeling.
fun
And then like with films and movies, like, you know, these kids with the pills, like, and
the
you know,
escapism and desires
and we've all been teenagers and we've all always wanted to experience that. But today it's literally life and death. You cannot chance it. You can't chance it.
I mean, and that's why the three of us do what we do, right? Also, not just outside of, obviously outside of our podcasts, but we have two podcasts sharing the message and giving hope and willing and trying to surrender to the idea of addiction. And so, I mean, I guess I'm giving us three some credit because we're fighting that fight.
You got to. However you fight it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But nah, it's funny you bring that up about like advertisement and movies, Alecia, because again, in that conversation with my dad, it was funny. Like one of our funny moments, he was like, man, I knew something was up with you when you started watching Scarface like every day. You know, and I was looking back, I'm like, yo, it was so crazy because I missed the like entire message of the movie, which was the immigrant comes to America, builds an empire. You know, if you remove the drugs and guns from it and the women and whatnot, like you come here and you could be anything you want if you put in the work ethic. You know what I'm saying? That's the message of it. The dude was in a camp and ended up in a mansion. You know, I got lost in the money, the women, the guns, the pile of cocaine, and like that movie, seeing it like, man, that looks so awesome.
The power, how sexy it is.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I can do this and all I need is that stuff. Sign me up. You know, and that went on like a run and that started my short-lived dealing career, which, you know, I ended up in jail and not shot. But it's just crazy how not Hollywood, but like movies and advertisements can play on that mental part of you to make it seem like, hey, this is the go-to. This is what you need to enjoy that. And you don't.
Wow. How do we teach our youth,
right,
to be strong and
we do what Jarrod's doing, but we also try to send another message. Like, I hate to say this out loud, but I'm about to. You did say Hollywood and then you shut your mouth, but like, wrong message. Wrong, red flag. Like, it needs to change immediately.
Or,
you know? Or it won't, and more people continue to buy into the idea that I need this to have that, and this is what I want, and bye-bye.
Right.
And I think, so that gets us back to like you using your voice to really make a difference.
To lead with love, to find strength in time. I can't help it. It just comes out.
You got the
and to redeem yourself, baby.
That's it. You know, I hope so. You know, I feel like I was called to be on this mission, you know, like almost like a preacher of sorts. But I thoroughly enjoy it. You know, it does get hard when you can't reach like certain people because you want to try to help everybody, you know, and sometimes you got to realize like they're not ready yet. But when you're ready, I'm here.
It seems to me that you plant the seed even if they're not ready. And as you plant the seed for them, you're right. When they're ready, they'll be back.
And they see you doing what you're doing. And that's, we were speaking about this on our last little interview about how it's basically just living your truth and hopefully your kids. It's like parenting, you know?
Right.
You just be your best and hopefully they'll come on board too.
Yeah, honestly, that's the only way to do it. You know, is put my best foot forward. So that way I'm leading by example. You know, and I think that's the definition because if you see me and like, you know, my uncles and cousins back in the day when I would see them drinking or smoking, it was always like, don't do what I do, but do as I say. It's like, nah, cuz I want to be like you. You know, like why? I want to do what you're doing. You know what I mean? So it's different if I could show you without telling you something and you just see how I move, because that's really like where it is. You know, like, man, that looks great. And you didn't have to do none of this to get there. Like, no, bro. Like
Mm.
I'm here. This is how I live day in and day out. Like, I don't need none of that.
Mm.
So yeah, always lead by example. You definitely get better results in the household with the kids. I promise you that.
I think with everything, like relationships, obviously you lead by example. It always fascinates me for some reason. Maybe you guys can help me through this. Like I think of the love languages, and one of them being, your words. And I want to be like, just shut the fuck
words of
up.
affirmation.
Yeah, but okay, great. Like, but you're full of shit. Like, I need to see your actions. Right? You're laughing at me, but I'm serious. It's not one of my love languages. My brain will go click. But you're full of shit. I need to see your actions.
But words do heal. You know what? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me is bullshit. Because I used to get hurt with like verbal abuse and shit like that.
Right. That's you can use. Okay, so I hold on. So you can use words to hurt, but to also heal.
Yes.
But if you are healing and it's not backed with action, then you're full of shit. And we all know that, right? Like we've been there. We've also done it ourselves. Yes.
Manipulation. You know what I'm saying?
That's what gets
me. I tell you I'm sorry or I apologize for something, and 10 minutes later I do it again. I'm just manipulating you.
Right. And then I'm like, Jarrod, I don't want to hear that again. Like, I don't want to hear you. I don't believe you. But if your actions show me, then I'm like, I see the love in you, dude.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Change action is the best form of apology.
Right. And that's what we learn in the program. For some
reason. First and foremost.
Right.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
But don't call me a bad name, okay?
Shut up, bitch. I'm kidding. Oh.
Yeah.
I love you. You know, thank you for bringing, it's a little different vibe today. I love it because we're getting so much knowledge and richness from Jarrod's experience. And yet, I don't know if it's you. Because a lot of the times we play it safe and we sort of really guide someone and through their experience and they share it. And like, we're able to bring ourselves more alive with you today. Do you feel that?
I do.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And it's actually, you know, time is this idea, this construct, but yet no time is gone from when you and I left one another. And we used to be, he would sit on that couch or wherever we were and he'd laugh because the things that would come out of my, see that smile? The things that would come out of my mouth, he's like, shit, there she goes again. And they'd sort of flow. And so thank you for bringing more life into me today.
No doubt. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? It's just being real and authentic. You know, I don't know any way else to be on this side of it. So
You've always been, from what I've seen in you're real and you're authentic. And I don't know who you were before you got sober. And
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, baby.
That person, he ain't coming back. You know, it don't even matter.
That just makes me think that your wife and your children and you, like, it just makes me think of this beautiful family unit. I don't know why, but it does.
I mean, I got no complaints. You know what I'm saying? And it's just basically gratitude. When I think about any and all of it, it boils down to simple gratitude. Like, I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that I had my kids because my two sons, because they were all I had when I was 28 and got sober. Like, they were probably the building block for why I started my recovery journey. My 10-year-old, he was a month old when I tried to take my own life. And now when I look at him, I'm like, man, how could I have ever left you? And then I had my daughter, my second year of recovery, and she was the glue. I call her the glue because she helped me see, like, all right, I really have to get my act together. Like, I cannot step foot. I got this baby girl, my son, my older son, and I got two bonus daughters. And they all watch me, like, how I interact with everything. So much so, and this is how I'm a work in progress. We went to Disney the end of January, right? And I haven't been to Disney in like probably 4 or 5 years, and I don't remember my feet hurting this bad. on absolute fire, you know? So like I don't clean socks. So I took my shoes off real quick for a moment just to like walk to the next ride. And I was standing there. And, you know, the person working comes over like, hey, we need you to wear shoes on the ride. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, like I'll put them on in a minute. It's like 2-3 minutes go by. Another person, I'm assuming the supervisor, walks over and they're like, yeah, you got to put your shoes on before you get on the ride. And I'm like, oh, okay, I will, like politely. And then they go, or we'll have to ask you to leave. And then they kind of like snarky walked off, and I had to catch myself. You know, looked at my son. He's watching me. My daughter's looking at me. I'm like, all right, put the shoes on. You know, like, you know, but in my head, I'm like cussing up and down, like, yo, you do. You know, so it's you know, to lead by example and just being grateful for it.
Yeah, I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I'm a hippie. I can walk around barefoot all I want. I'll stick this foot up here.
Yeah.
In my head, that's exactly how it was going. Like, yo, what the?
But right action is let me be grateful and put my shoes back on.
Like I'm at Disney. Like I felt the magic. I can't. Like if I would have got kicked out then, you know, we sat and watched the fireworks at night and the lights from the castle. Man, I was out there crying and shit. Yo, this is what they mean. Like this is the magic of Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like
absolutely.
So if I would have messed up at that moment and not got to experience that, like I wouldn't have forgiven myself over some shoes.
Or bad attitude.
Yeah, and my piss poor attitude. That too. You know, accountability, right?
Right.
Like I ain't.
Right.
Well, it happens. We're not perfect. That's for sure.
No doubt. Definitely not.
Nope.
Definitely not perfect.
I have to remind myself of that all the time. Stop trying to be perfect, Eden. That definition doesn't exist. Oh, your definition is somewhat. I mean, like, this idea. First of all, who created the word perfect?
I don't know.
Right?
My scars are perfect.
Mine too.
Perfect. That's it.
I think you're perfect, Jarrod.
I think you're perfect.
See, this is where we go back to that idea of you're perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a fact.
That was
perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And we do what we can day to day for ourselves, for others. You take us out, mister. I know your heart. And like you've been giving so much right now. And like I just sort of want like a moment of silence. I want you to tap in and just take it where it goes. If that makes any sense at all, Jarrod.
So you want me just to free flow?
Yeah, baby.
Give us like an exit.
Just be you. As long as
I need like a choir and an organ behind me.
We'll edit that in.
We'll be your backup girls.
All right, bet. Let me see. Real talk. You know, first and foremost, Alecia and Eden, I'm grateful that you all offered me the opportunity to speak on the Taste of Recovery podcast. And for anybody that's listening, you know, or will listen in the future, if you have a loved one or you yourself are in the struggle, you know, just know that there is hope. You have help, and do not be afraid to reach out and speak to somebody, because I promise you, once you push through the fear of opening that door, you will not be upset with how your life changes once you choose a recovery lifestyle, and just dive all the way in and don't look back.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope these stories have touched your hearts and left you with a newfound appreciation for the incredible strength within us all.
And if you found our podcast to be a source of inspiration, we'd be extremely grateful if you could take a moment to rate and review us.
Yes, review us.
Your support helps us reach more people on the path to recovery.
And while you're at it, hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Remember, you're not alone. One day at a time, we got this.